93, 93, 93. This is Aman Asha Renew from asharenew.com. Today I will speak on how to heal from trauma, but not in the way you think. So let me explain what I'm getting at here. In modern times, we have become comfortable being a victim. We have become comfortable with being lesser than, being in situations where we are, you can say, the underdog. You know what, we have to fight all the opposition and we have to come up against all this adversity. You know, all the people that did you wrong, all the people that hurt you. We feel like we have to overcome that. We got to heal, you know, a popular term now, like we have to heal our inner child and all this, in my opinion, ridiculousness. This is ridiculous. Let me tell you why. Try to find in any ancient civilization a healing ritual. 93, Keenan. Meaning, if you go back in time, if you look at the lives of our ancestors, you're not going to find any rituals dedicated to healing trauma. You're not going to find it because we did not consider ourselves victims, even though we had to face adversities the whole time. But we never considered ourselves victims to the point where we had to dedicate rituals to healing the physical traumas that we endure. That was never the case. You're going to find, you can say, love spells, money spells. You're going to find all these other different types of rituals, but you're not going to find any rituals that's specifically dedicated to healing trauma because that's not how we thought. And that's not how we should think in modern times. We have been programmed to take on, you can say, this energy of victimhood. And all this does is keep us going in a loop over and over and over again. 93, Michelle. So let me give you an example. Let's just say you've been through trauma, through, relationships, your upbringing, so on and so forth. So now you are an adult. But as an adult, you're still thinking about what occurred in your childhood. You're still upset at your parent. You're still upset at your exes. You're still upset at the system. You're still upset at what our ancestors had to endure and why we are in the situation we are in. Look at all the information out here. Look at all the people, again, who just wants to be victims. Everybody's being victimized because of the color of your skin, because, again, whatever poverty, you were born into poverty. There's every excuse in the world as to why we should be looking at ourselves as victims. But this defeats the entire purpose of why you are here. We are not here to heal. That's not why we're here. We're not here to heal what occurred in the past. You may have had a fucked up childhood. You're not here to heal that. It is what it is. I know this because as much spiritual work as I have put in, I don't even think about my past. I literally don't even think about my past. I don't think about how many times I got my ass beat by my mother. Whatever people can think about why they are fucked up or whatever it is, it's like I don't even think about any of that. And it's not that I have to force myself not to think about it. I'm like, why do I need to think about past shit? I'm not upset at like any of my exes, any of the past relationships that didn't work out. I'm not thinking about any of that. I just don't, there's just no reason to. I can have a civilized conversation with anybody who has done me wrong in any form or fashion. It's like it's not weighing on my heart to the point where I just get all out of my character because of some past trauma. From, you can say, another person that considered themselves a victim as well. I understand what's going on here. So I don't sweat that. And again, it's not that I have to wake up and I have to program myself to be that way. It's just so much work is being put in continuously that it's no time to think about that. There's no time to think about being a victim. Let me give you an example though. Just think about the movie 300. Like this literally just came to me like right before I made this video because I was thinking about, what topic should I talk about, and then the movie 300 came to me. If you remember the movie 300, and I'm like, damn, that's a fucking perfect example. I'm like, I know that's straight from Spirit. That's the most perfect example that I can even think of. And for those who may not have seen the movie, then I will explain it to you. The movie 300 basically is a story of King Leonidas, meaning when he was 8 years old, he was ripped away from his mother. He was ripped away from his father because he was destined to be king. And because he was destined to be king, he had to be ripped away from everything that he was comfortable with. He came up, you can say, in royalty. He was basically a born king. So you can say he came up not suffering at all, right? He had a mother, he had a father, he had everything a child could desire. But as soon as he turned 8, all that was ripped away from him and he was sent out into the wild to show and prove that he is, in fact, the future king. So, like, okay, if he is the future king, because this is the whole ideology behind that, if he is the future king, he will be able to survive in the wild and he will return to us a king. He's going to leave a boy, but he's going to come back a man. He's going to come back on king time. He will not return as a child. And if he does not return on king time, that means he died in the wild and he was never destined to be a king. So what happened is the movie shows he's out, a child, he's in the wild, he has no clothes, he's in the cold, but he's surviving. And he had to slay a beast. In this case, it was a wolf. So as a child, as a young man, he probably was gone for like maybe 7 years or something. So he had to slay a beast in the wild and endure, you can say, the animal kingdom. He had to master his environment. There was no time to be a victim. There was no time to think about, oh, I wonder what my mom is doing. I wonder what my father is doing. I wonder what all my friends are doing. There was no time for that. He had no time to think about the past because it would lead to his death. Because if he thought too much about his past, what is that going to make you want to do? You're going to want to go back home. You're going to be thinking about all the stuff you're missing. You would not be looking forward. So there was absolutely no time to reflect because you had to survive and move forward because you are destined to be king. And I'm also going to talk about the queen as well because the queen they showed the queen's adversity as well. And I will speak about the queen as well so that it can be even. So the movie 300, there was no time for him to be a victim. There was no time for him to sweat his adversities. There was no time for him to think or question himself. He was told, you are a king. You are destined for greatness. You will return to us. We will be waiting for you to become who you are destined to be. And then he was sent out into the wild. He survived and he returned a king. Now let's speak about the queen's example. Now they did not show how the queen became the queen in her upbringing, but they did show her in a situation where she had to overcome adversity, and let me explain that. So after the king, you can say, went off, basically the movie 300 is about a small army. The king took a small fraction of the army because basically the president, you can say, is the CEO of the army. Meaning if the president says right now, Joe Biden, because he's the current president, if he said, I want the army to go over here and over there, he doesn't have to get permission from Congress. A small fraction of the army, he can move immediately without getting the approval of the other branches of law. Now, he could not send the whole army. See, that's exactly what happened in 300. They tried to stop him. So basically, what he said was, he's just taking a walk. Basically, he had to make a sacrifice. Like, I'm the king, but I have to sacrifice myself. So he was really preparing himself for death. So what happened was he was like, okay, I'm not trying to reveal the entirety of the movie, but basically it was predicted that Spartan will fall. So that's essentially what all you could say, the people in power, the politicians, they went to the oracle, and the oracle said Spartan will fall. So the Spartan army was not going to engage in warfare. They actually wanted to negotiate peace. But in order for them to negotiate peace, they had to give up their land. And the king wasn't having it. Like, yo, I'm not about to give up my land. We are a free people. I'm not about to be a slave to another ruler. So what he did was, and he didn't initiate the whole army. He took a fraction of the army, and these are my personal bodyguards. I'm going to take a walk, which ultimately led to a sacrifice. So the whole movie, that's why the whole movie was about 300, a small army that defeated a grand army of like tens of thousands of warriors. A small fraction was able to, they didn't defeat the army, but they made the king bleed, the other king that was trying to take them over. His only goal was, I want to show you that you are not a god, because the other king that tried to take over Sparta, right? He basically was looking at himself as a god. Xerxes, the name was Xerxes, the king Xerxes. He was looking at himself as a god. He didn't look at himself as a human. He looked at himself as a god, to the point where he didn't even feel like he could bleed. That's just how egotistical and narcissistic he was. Like, I can't even bleed. I'm a god amongst you motherfuckers. Basically, all Xerxes wanted from King Leonidas was to bow to him, which King Leonidas refused to do. Like, I'm not about to bow to you. You're not greater than me. And I'm going to show you that you can bleed, that you are not a god. And at the end of the movie, he actually showed. He didn't kill Xerxes, but he was able to damage him to the point where he bled. So now he came to a realization like, oh shit, I'm not a god, which was the whole point. Now let me speak about the queen. So while the king was out in the battlefield engaging in warfare, the women were not able to speak, like in court. So the wife, or the queen, she wanted to convince the politicians to send the whole army to help the king. But she could not request that help directly, because women were not allowed to request the help, so she had to go through a man. So she had to make a deal with the enemy to speak on her behalf. So what she did was she secretly met with the enemy to negotiate on her behalf, to get the rest of the army to be engaged in war. However, the enemy, he basically said, well, the only way that I'm going to speak on your behalf is if you give me a piece of ass, for lack of a better term. For lack of better terms, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. He basically wanted a piece of ass. And what did she do? She let him have it. She turned around and she let him basically rape her. Because it wasn't, he was basically like, yo, I'm going to make this real, disgusting for you. This ain't just me, just busting off. I'm going to make this real, I'm going to try to traumatize you. That's basically what he was trying to do. Like, yo, I'm going to do this in a way that's going to traumatize you. So when it came time for the enemy to speak on the queen's behalf to get the rest of the army to help the king, the enemy tried to double cross the queen and basically expose her. He like, yo, I just had you last night. Like, you're nothing. He basically tried to lower her status. Like, yo, you're nothing. But she ended up double crossing him. She ended up killing him. So he tried to cross her, and he ended up getting double crossed, and it was later exposed. Well, not later. When she killed him, it was exposed that he was the enemy. He had gold from the enemy, basically Xerxes. He was paid by Xerxes to he was like a corrupt politician, just to make it in modern terms, right? Just to use modern terms, he was a corrupt politician, so he was making deals with the enemy. But nobody knew. What's up, Chihuahua? right? What's up, Q-Abba? So nobody knew that he was making deals with the enemy until she killed him. And basically the same way that he raped her, she killed him. She like the same words he said to her, she said to him while she stabbed him in the stomach. I'm saying that to say, now imagine if she took the victim mentality and crumbled up when he tried to expose her, like, yo, you just gave me some ass. Now imagine if she crumbled up and ran off like a victim instead of taking her sword out and killing him right on the spot, which then exposed that he was dealing with the enemy. Now imagine if she crumbled. Imagine if she felt in her heart that, damn, he's right. But she refused to do that. She refused to be a victim. And it was exposed that he was actually trying to manipulate things from behind the scenes. He would not have been exposed if she crumbled, if she looked at herself as a victim. So even though you can say she gave herself up, because she did it out of the love of her king. So technically, she cheated on, I guess, her husband. Technically. But she did it, she's like, yo, this is what I need to do. I'm a woman, I can't speak to these men. They're not gonna listen to me. I need a man to negotiate my behalf. So she did what she felt she needed to do. She felt like she had no other choice. She was gonna do that for the sake of her kingdom or her queendom. So she did it essentially for all of her people. She's like, if this is the sacrifice I have to make, it is what it is. I got the king out there making the ultimate sacrifice. There ain't no way I'm about to not make this smaller sacrifice to assist him. So in her mind, it was justified. And it actually was, because it ended up, he was the enemy anyway. So I'm just using this movie as an example of, imagine if the king looked at himself as a victim. He would have never became king. Imagine if the queen looked at herself as a victim because she gave herself to the enemy. But she didn't look at herself as a victim. She was able to turn it around and it worked to her favor. Because after it was exposed that he was working with the enemy, that he was corrupt, they end up sending the rest of the army and she ended up getting what she wanted. And that's basically what part two was about. It's basically two parts of the movie. So the first part was about the king, then part two was about the queen and her sacrifice. So I'm just using that movie as an example because, again, it came to me. Just imagine if they viewed themselves differently. That imagine if they were like, I got to do some type of healing ritual to heal this trauma. Imagine if she like, damn, I just got victimized. I just got violated by this man. I need to go do a healing ritual. I need to heal my inner child because I just got violated. Imagine if she took that route. Imagine if the king talked about he had to heal his inner child because he didn't even have a childhood because he had to go out into the wild and slay a wild beast. He didn't have the opportunity to grow up like a normal child because he was destined to be king. But imagine if he felt like, damn, I just want to live like a normal child. I want to have a childhood like everybody else. Imagine if he took that mentality, he would not be able to do what he was destined to do, which is to be king and make the ultimate sacrifice for his people. So I'm just using these examples of modern day times does not want us to think in this way, like warriors. They don't want you to cultivate your warrior spirit. They want you to be a fucking victim. They want you on your fucking knees begging the next person for their resources. Like this shit is cool. Because we're just destined to, be slaves and we have to be, victims of whoever victimizes us. When that's just simply not the case. We end up getting fucked over because we begin to commit it to our subconscious. And then we project that reality outward when we begin to believe that. But this is not the case. We all are stars. That's why the book of the law, the book that everybody hates, that's why it says, once a king, always a king. Once a queen, always a queen. The people that are victims are not of me. Meaning we're not supposed to feel sorry for people. We're not supposed to feel sorry for people that's going through anything. including ourselves. This is the point. Because when we look at ourselves as victims, we then, you could say, start to revolve around victimhood. So now, when you look at, people in unfortunate situations, you begin to identify with these people. You begin to I was about to say emphasize, but that's not the word. Empathize, right? You begin to empathize with these people as if they just got the short end of the stick. When that's not the case, everybody has the ability to lift themselves into godhood. Just as an example, we all have the ability to be a star. We all have the ability to manifest our divine will, our true will, our thelema. We all have that opportunity, but very few people take it because it's so easy to be a victim. Right? It's so easy to be a victim because society supports that. Again, just look at YouTube. Look at all the victim content out here. Why do you think everybody's talking about narcissism? Why do you think everybody's talking about, healing your trauma inner child? Why do you think that's a thing now? That wasn't even a thing before. Like, I wasn't watching YouTube as a teenager, learning about no goddamn inner child. That content didn't even fucking exist. There was no content about narcissism. All this is recent. All this is programming to keep you in a victimhood mentality. Because as long as you look at yourself as a victim, that makes you a slave. So you don't have the opportunity to raise into your kinghood or your queenhood. So that makes you a slave. And again, the book of the law speaks, well, once a slave, always a slave. So if you decide to identify with slavery and being a slave and being a victim, then that becomes your reality because you identify with it. You identify with the weak. You identify with the poor. It's like it's not about that. Irregardless of a person's personal situation, if you are a king in your heart, if you are a queen in your heart, it's just a matter of time before you get to where you're trying to get to. So it's like whatever you have to go through to get to where you're getting to, it's like it don't even matter to you. It's like this is just what I have to be to develop myself in the ways of a king or the ways of a queen. It just is what it is. So you're actually not a victim. You had to experience everything you had to experience in order to be who you were destined to be. It was a rites of passage, and that's where I'm getting at. Everybody, or every king and every queen has to go through a rites of passage. But you see, we don't even have a rites of passage in modern times. Why do you think they removed that? Why do you think they removed the rites of passage? Because what made a boy into a man was going through that rites of passage. What made a girl into a woman was going through the rites of passage. So if you remove that element, how does a boy become a man? How does the woman become, or the girl become a woman? If there is no rites of passage. Our rites of passage is what, fucking college? When you get to leave when you get to leave your parents' home at 18, that's our rites of passage. Are you kidding me? Or if we're talking about 14 or 13, well, that's when you go to high school. Our rites of passage is high school. Our rites of passage is college because that's what's promoted to us. Everybody's saying, like, you got to get your education. That's what's pushed on us. You got to get your education. You got to get your education. You got to get your education. You got to get a good job. That becomes our rites of passage, an education and a good job. That's essentially the marks of a man or the marks of a woman in modern times. But we see, like, this is all a programming. This is the matrix programming you to, like, okay, well, so you're going to remove the rites of passage, which is sending a child into the wild and proving themselves. Fuck that. No, we got to send them off to college so that they can be programmed to be able to hold down a job, to deal with a narcissist, basically, because most people's bosses is a fucking narcissist. So you got to go to college, you got to go through this good job just to have a boss that's a fucking narcissist. What is the point of that? What is the point of that? How does that make you a man or a woman when they remove the rites of passage? And we wonder why we're all over the fucking place. We wonder why we feel like we have to fucking be healed. Because there was no rites of passage. They removed it. So of course you're going to feel like a fucking victim. Of course you're going to feel like your inner child is fucked over because there was no rites of passage to make you get over that bullshit. That's what the rites of passage was supposed to do. You're not thinking about what the fuck happened to your past because your past really doesn't even exist to you because you are no longer that person. You are no longer, like, whatever the fuck happened to you in the past, you are no longer that person because the rites of passage erases your karma. That's what it's really about. See, people's karma has never been erased because they never went through anything to erase the karma. That's why the rites of passage was a spiritual evolution, because it erased your past karma so that that's not something that you have to consider at all. Right? So if you remove the rites of passage, of course, now we become adults, still thinking about the bullshit we went through as a child. Still thinking like, damn, my whole life has been fucked up because of what happened here, what happened there. My mom wasn't there, my father wasn't there. Any excuse. And it just never stops because the karma was never deleted. It was never erased. So now it just lingers on and on and on, and we just wake up on this same time like we're still the child. We are no longer whatever version of you went through any trauma. What's up, Tangela? Whatever version of you went through trauma is irrelevant. Fuck your trauma. Now we have to initiate our own rites of passage. See, that's what they're trying to do now. So basically, healing your inner child is basically your rites of passage. Get the fuck out of here with that. That's not a rites of passage. But you see, motherfuckers try to give you rituals and meditations to heal your inner child. Get the fuck out of here with that. That's not a rites of passage at all. That's not what makes a girl into a woman. That's not what makes a boy into a man because they healed their inner child. That doesn't make no fucking sense. But you see, we think it does. We eat that content up like that's the fucking gospel. But then we wonder why again we were mentally disturbed. Well, we can't get over bullshit. Right? 93. And that's what 93 is all about. When you read the book of the law, you see the reason why most people don't resonate with it, because it doesn't make you feel like a victim. It says stand strong. Be who you are. Live out your true will. Do what thou wilt. And you don't have to infringe on nobody else's free will. So do what thou wilt doesn't mean you can just do whatever the fuck you want. That means like you can be exactly who you came here to be without infringing on nobody's free will. You don't have to infringe on nobody's free will, even if your free will was infringed on. So somebody may have infringed on your free will, which was traumatic. You got your free will victimized. But fuck free will. It's about true will. You give up your free will to live out your true will. That's what the rites of passage is all about. So just like the boy who's still thinking about his childhood, that's free will. Or I want to just be a regular child. That's your free will talking. Your true will is I'm destined to be a king. I'm destined to be a queen. That's your true will. That's your thelema. That's your divine will. But if we get caught up with the free will, you see how we just keep going in this same loop, right? You know, that makes sense. Why would you ask someone to try to remember something so traumatic? They blocked it out so they can heal. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's without a rites of passage, how can that be removed from your thoughts? Of course you're going to still be thinking about what somebody else did to you, how you were taken advantage of. Of course you're going to be thinking about that because there was no rites of passage in place for you to remove that karma. So of course we're going to still be thinking about the same shit. We're going to have nightmares and visions about what somebody else did to us in the past. Because there was no cutoff period. The rites of passage represents you are no longer this. You do not resonate with this. You must sacrifice your free will in order to live out your true will. But many of us, we do not want to give up our free will. We just want to do whatever the fuck we want because we get caught up in the matrix. We get caught up in distractions because they throw money at us. They throw jobs at us. They throw all these distractions and we try to make ourselves feel good. buy nice clothes, live in nice houses, drive nice cars. We try to cover up the trauma, but it never goes away. Money don't make it go away. But all they do is throw money at us. That's why, again, you got to get educated and get a good job. In other words, they're just trying to throw money at you. Yeah, go ahead and buy whatever you want. Buy nice things, live a nice life, but that doesn't delete the karma. So that's why it does not work. That's why you got a bunch of grown people still thinking about what the fuck happened to them. It don't matter how much money they have. How do we know that? Just look at the celebrities. Why do you think these celebrities and these, the rappers and all these people we look up to, the entertainers, why their life is chaos? Why is it so much chaos? How do you know it's chaos? Because every day you see there's something to talk about. Look at the tabloids. Look at the tabloids. Every day, some type of fucking celebrity is going through something, and that's what people are trying to strive to. You would think, like, okay, well, this person has money. Why are they going through this? Because they're still dealing with trauma. The money does not delete the karma. It doesn't delete the trauma. So that's why you can have people who you feel like they should have everything in the world. They should have no problems. In actuality, they shouldn't, but money doesn't heal it. It don't matter how much money you spend on a therapist, then that's what they put on us. So, okay, you need to go to therapy. All right, I see you infinite possibilities. I appreciate it. You're welcome. You see, that's what they try to give us. Oh, you need to go to therapy. You need to talk to a therapist. So talking to a therapist, how does that equate to a rites of passage? You see where I'm going with that? How the fuck does that equate to a rites of passage, talking to a therapist about what you went through? Now you got to re-experience the trauma, but it doesn't heal anything because you're talking about it, because you're dealing with a psychologist, somebody who went to school to learn psychology, but that's supposed to heal you? Somebody's supposed to walk you through your trauma? See, this is modern times. Like what? I want to find therapy in ancient society. I want to know, what ancient civilization, our ancestors didn't go to fucking therapy? Where's the evidence of that? See, we had witch doctors, we had shamans. So you would go to the shaman, and the shaman is going to give you a psychedelic drug so that you can have a psychedelic experience and go through a rites of passage. That's what we were doing before. But you see, we can't do that because those drugs are illegal. So we can't even have that type of experience. But that's what our ancestors did. We didn't just keep dealing with karma. Like, oh, you going through something? Here, take this DMT. Go talk to your ancestors and see what they got for you. Why you're here. That's what we did. We connected with the intelligence of the earth. And that's what matured us. Because that's what psychedelics do. They mature you. Right? Therapy didn't do anything for me. Exactly. It's not supposed to. It doesn't replace the rites of passage. How do I heal from sexual trauma? You can't think about it like it's something you have to heal from. You don't have to heal from it. See, here's the thing. There are certain societies for women. You can study this. It isn't just me saying it. Certain civilizations. All you gotta do is look at temple prostitution. That's all you gotta do. Look at the history of temple prostitution. Meaning, what made a girl into a woman is she was responsible for a temple. So when she became a certain age, and again, I know in modern times this is a little extreme, but I'm just trying to help you to reconnect to how our ancestors thought. So I know it's going to sound pretty extreme in modern times because everybody's so soft. But this is what our ancestors put us through to mature us. Temple prostitution that's what made a girl into a woman. She had to take care of the temple. Anybody who came to that temple and they made the sacrifice, which is money. So a man would come into the temple, make the offering, and the girl would have to do the sexual favors for the man. And then he went on about his business. Anybody who came through that temple, she had to service him. The evidence is there. All you gotta do is do your history. The evidence is there. That's what made a girl into a woman. But you see, we have demonized prostitution, even though we say it's the oldest profession, but you see it's demonized now. So now when women go through the sexual trauma, then they feel like, damn, that shit shouldn't have happened to me. Well, in ancient times, this happened to every woman. This is what made a girl into a woman, because she had to deal with a grown-ass man. Just think about it. I know it is. It's not easy to hear. This is what made a girl into, she had to deal with a grown ass man. But you see, that's why in early times, as we know, like with our grandfathers and grandmothers, a lot of them got married when they were young. That's just, it's just the evidence is there, especially in the South. A lot of girls, as soon as they hit puberty, they're getting married off to grown ass men. So I know it ain't just happened in my family. I know what happened. This was the culture at one time. It's not the culture now, but it still happens. If you go to the Middle East, as soon as a woman hits poverty, she is not poverty, puberty. As soon as a woman goes through her puberty, she's eligible to get married to a grown ass man. This is still occurring. It never stopped. It just, in the Western civilization, we tried to switch shit up. And we had little remnants of that, but then, more and more, and that's why all we talk about now is what? Fucking LGBTQ shit, right? That's what they're trying to teach in schools and all. Now, see, we're on a whole nother wave, but this is traumatic. This is them trying to take advantage of your trauma. And we're not able to pick up on it because we're still looking at ourselves as victims. You cannot be a victim if you're destined to be a king or a queen. Can't nobody victimize you. It don't matter what happens to you. It don't matter if somebody shoots you, somebody violates you. That does not stop your destiny. That should enforce your destiny. You cannot be stopped unless you decide that you will stop. That's just what it is. So as long as we feel like, damn, I gotta heal. I was violated and I have to heal from that. No, the fuck you don't. You must absorb it and make it a part of you. Like, this is me. I don't have to heal from the past. The past is not to be healed from. It's to be deleted. Delete the past. Meaning you don't have to resonate with that at all. You don't have to make your life story, because I see this shit too. I'm like, God damn, like some people make it their life story. Like, yo, I was a victim. I've seen it. Women talking about, yo, I was taken advantage of at 3 years old, and that like becomes their life story. It's like, what the fuck is going on? So now you're a grown ass woman still speaking about what happened when you was 3 years old, when you was taken advantage of. And I'm not trying to put it off like that's a good thing. But the fact that that becomes how a person identifies themselves, I'm like, wait, what's going on here? Why are we identifying ourselves with trauma? Why does that become your life story? Why can't your life story be what occurred to you as a woman? Your trials and tribulations as a woman. Why does it have to still be what somebody did to you when you were young and you couldn't defend yourself? And again, I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm not saying it should happen, but we know it is a reality. People get violated, men and women. Women just are more forward with it. Same thing happened with men. Right? I hate when people from my past come around thinking I'm still the same person I'm not. So delete. Only you can do it. Only you can delete your karma. Meaning you had to initiate your own rites of passage. The world is not going to do it for you. That's why the world took it away. Because the world does not want you to evolve. The world wants you to remain a boy. The world wants you to remain a girl. The world doesn't want you to be a true man. The world doesn't want you to be a true woman, which just makes you a king or a queen of yourself, of your own kingdom, of your own queendom. Do you think a king is worried about what the fuck he had to endure to become a king? Do you think a queen is worried about what she had to do to become a queen? No, she's like, yo, whatever happened to me, it had to happen. So if I got violated as a youth, all I did was activate my sexual currency to become the queen that I am today. So why that person think that they took advantage of me, that they took my soul away from me, they actually gave me power. See, that's how you flip it. It's the law of reversal. But you see, when we resonate, them, that person took a soul, they took my soul away. When a person gets shot, then they took a piece of me with them. No, the fuck they didn't. But the world makes you think that somebody can take something from you that you can't get back. They can't. Can't nobody take your destiny away from you but you. If we do not perform our true will, it's because we made a decision not to, because we're still thinking about bullshit. We're still thinking about what somebody else did to us. And not thinking about, okay, why are you here? You are not here to be a victim still speaking about things that happened in the past, unless it's constructive. So that's why I remind us of the ancient past, because it's constructive. I want to do so in a constructive way so that we can just have a short glimpse as to how our ancestors thought, so that we can come into the understanding of this is why they thought the way they thought. There is no need to be a victim, because you're a king, you're a queen. Everything that you endure has a purpose, even if we don't understand it at that particular time. Of course, you're not going to be a child and understand why you had to endure what you had to endure. But as you mature and you evolve, you realize, like, damn, if I didn't go through that, I wouldn't have been able to evolve the way I was supposed to evolve. Some people's rites of passage happen before others. See, some people you can say have been on their own since they were like 13. We know that, like people in the streets, people, drug dealers and all that. A lot of these people had to take care of themselves since they were teenagers or before teenagers. We see this every day, all day. It's happening right now. The world is so soft because they want us to be soft. Because they want you to identify with slavery. They want you to identify with being a victim. They don't want you to manifest your true kingship or queenship, because that's a threat to them. If you come through on your queen time or your king time, they can't control you. They can't just throw therapy at you. They can't throw, you need to heal your inner child. They can't throw all this modern day bullshit at you. It's like, you don't fall for that shit. But like, I don't need none of that shit. I conducted my own rites of passage, so I don't need what the world tries to give me, and they're just trying to give me little crumbs, little remnants of things that just ultimately just keep us going around in loops and loops and loops. That's why all we're talking about now is fucking narcissists. Do you think that that is constructive? We're going to talk about narcissists like these are just the worst people on earth, not realizing that there can be no narcissist if you are a king or a queen. How can anybody take advantage of you if you know who the fuck you are? How can you be a victim of a narcissist if you are a king, if you are a queen? How can you be a victim? But you see, if you are, that's why they push that shit on you. So it's all about narcissism, because now it's all about, well, you are a victim then. Oh yeah, I was a victim of a narcissist. That's what they want you to believe. Oh yeah, I remember that ex who had those same attributes. Oh yeah, they were abusing me. They were taking advantage. Of course they want you to believe that. Of course they want you to believe that. Because that just takes you right back into victimhood. Somebody took advantage of you. Somebody was, had evil intent to try to stop you. But how could they stop your divine will? They cannot. Only we can stop ourselves. Can't nobody stop you from being who and what you came here to be, unless you convince yourself that they can. So we're giving them too much power. That's the point I'm making. We are giving them too much power. Fuck a narcissist. Stop giving them power. Stop giving the fucking therapist power. Stop giving this world power over you, over your consciousness, because it should not have power over you. You are born divine. Fuck what happens to you. That's a narcissist. No, see, I'm about to say narcissistic, Gnostic. That's the whole art of Gnosticism. We are the rebels of the world, meaning if the world wants me to be a slave, I'm going to be a king, or I'm going to be a queen. I'm going to do the exact opposite of what the world wants me to be. The world wants me to identify with my trauma. The world wants me to believe that I'm a slave, that I'm a victim, that I'm just impoverished, that I'm at the bottom of the barrel. That's what the world wants me to believe, because that allows people to take advantage of me. But if I don't believe that, how can I be taken advantage of? Can't nobody take your power away from you. How? How can anybody take anything from you if you are God? If you are the Anu? If you are the ancestors? How can they take that from you? They can't take that from you. It's in your DNA. It is written on your DNA. It is in your genetics. How can they take that away from you? How can a person's actions make you less than who you are? They can't, unless we decide. So of course they're going to push this weak ass, soft ass, bullshit ass philosophy on you, which is like, okay, who created this? It wasn't your ancestors. That's why you got to ask yourself, who created this whole narcissistic movement? Who created this movement of you got to heal your inner child? If you look at the people that created this shit, they probably don't look like you. They probably don't look like you. If you look at their history, if you look at their story, you're like, yo, these are some weirdos. The reason why it became as big as it is because it's a method of mind control. It's called mind control. If I can get people to forfeit their divinity, then that makes them less than themselves. And that means you lost. That means you lose. If you're looking out into the world, feeling like the world took something from you, that means you lost. But if you are self-contained, if you are the universe in miniature form, how can anybody change that? Because somebody put their hands on you, because somebody violated you. It don't change a goddamn thing other than you. I'm like, okay. Instead of being mad at this particular person, place, or thing, delete. I am greater than my trauma. I am greater than my adversity. I am greater than any trial and tribulation that is placed upon my path. I can overcome all things. If you're God, you can. If you are the goddess, you can. If you are the supreme mind, if you are the supreme being, how can anybody stop you? That's how black people got pimped. That's why you have to reverse it. That's why you have to be pimpish. You have to be the pimp, not the pimp over anybody else. Because remember, pimping don't have nothing to do with what you do to another person. So, we have this idea of like a modern day pimp taking advantage of women and all that. You see, if you put things in the proper context, you're like, wait, nobody's a victim here. There is no man taking advantage of a woman who already has made a decision to live out the art of prostitution because she felt that that's what she needed to do. Nobody is being a victim here. Nobody's a victim. Especially when you look at the lifestyles that people, ain't nobody a fucking victim here. Nobody's forcing anybody to do anything against their will. But we look at it as a metaphor. So instead of looking at, okay, well, pimp is a person, it is a mentality. You can pimp yourself. Remember, that's why you had shit like pimp my ride. Pimping means enhancement. Pimping doesn't mean derogatory, to put somebody down. It means to enhance. Before you enhance somebody else, you are enhancing yourself. Pimp my ride. You are pimping yourself first and foremost. To be a king, to be a queen, you got to pimp yourself first and foremost. It don't have to have nothing to do with anybody else. You don't have to go outside of your own consciousness. You pimp yourself. That makes you a pimp. You like, yo, I pimp myself. I enhance myself. I enchanted myself. I made myself a magical being because I chose not to identify with victimhood. That's what it is. Narcissism started with the self-esteem movement. Also, I always stay true to therapy. It comes through your own creativity. Self-esteem movement. So you see, how powerful does that sound? That people need to start a self-esteem movement. Because people just have so low self-esteem. But why would a person have low self-esteem? Because the rites of passage was removed. So that's why they had to create a fucking movement, because there is no rites of passage. This is what I'm saying. If the rites of passage were still in place, there would be no need to create a movement. It's just that simple. So we got to create all this bullshit. We got to create all this bullshit because they have removed the exact thing that made you into a man, that made you into a woman. So if you take that away, if you take that out of the equation, and they then replace it with that bullshit, if it's replaced with bullshit, then expect people to manifest that bullshit. Now you got to hear people talk bullshit. Who the fuck wants to hear about somebody's pain? I'm just saying. Would you rather speak about the things you have overcome or are you going to dwell on your pain? What's more constructive? Do you feel you see an example? Like, yo, this is how you conquer instead of this is how you deal with trauma. You don't need to deal with it. It's about conquering it because it don't exist in the first place. Only if we think it do. It's just that simple. If the mind is all, that's the first universal law. The first universal law, the mind is all. If the first universal law is the mind is all, then that means you must take control of your own mind before anything else. Before anything else, you must control your own mind. Then from controlling your mind, you must make correspondences. That's the second universal law. From controlling your mind, you make correspondences. Excuse me. From those correspondences, you're able to program your mind, your subconscious. You program your subconscious with correspondences. This is alchemy. This is what our ancestors left us to master because they mastered it. That's why they didn't need therapy. They didn't need therapy. They had universal laws. They had rites of passage. There was no need for therapy. There was no need for a self-esteem movement. We were alchemists. We are alchemists. That means you are able to transform your own reality. Fuck therapy. It's about alchemy. Alchemy supersedes therapy. Alchemy supersedes self-esteem. Anything, narcissism, alchemy supersedes anything put in front of you. You can supersede it all as an alchemist, adhering to the 7 universal laws. The law of attraction is just one. The law of attraction is just cause and effect. That's the last universal law. You got 6 other laws. But that's why most people, they know about that. Most people can tell you about the law of attraction, but they can't even name the 7 universal laws. So that lets you know how far or how disconnected we are. We don't even know our own spiritual system. We know more about therapy than alchemy. We know more about narcissism than alchemy. They can tell you all about therapy. They can tell you all about narcissists. They can tell you all about healing your inner child. They can tell you all about that. Talk your fucking head off all day. But then you ask them, what are the 7 universal laws of alchemy? And if they get stuck, then that lets you know right there. You're all over the place right now. If you can't name those 7 universal laws, then what the fuck are you doing? But you can name everything else that did not come from your people, that did not come from your ancestors. You know all about that. But when you're asked about, well, what did your ancestors teach? What did they give to you? What makes you the dominant form? What makes you an alchemist? If you can't explain that, then it's like, what are you doing? They left us this for a reason. You may have spoken on this. What is a rites of passage? The rites of passage is what makes a boy into a man. The rites of passage is what makes a girl into a woman. So every ancient civilization had a rites of passage. The man or the boy had to go out into the wild, slay a beast, and come back a man. A woman had to go to be in charge of a temple and serve the men. Whatever system was in place, that's what made you evolve. You deleted your karma instead of being fixated on it. The rites of passage is alchemy. That's what they're really doing. So I'm just explaining the outward manifestation. But what's happening internally is alchemy. It's self-alchemy. You are alchemizing your reality. That's what alchemy is. You are an alchemist. So if you are an alchemist, that means you can transform any person, place, thing, situation, event, circumstance. You are able to transform any of that, including your trauma. So as alchemists, it's about transforming your karma, not identifying with it. Why identify with something that you can transmute? That's what our ancestors taught. We don't deal with shit. We transform it. We transmute it. We don't deal with any damn thing. We transform. We evolve. Why deal with something? If you're dealing with something, that means it's not changing form. It's staying the same. Which is, as you see, all these motherfuckers going to therapy, trying to develop their self-esteem. It's like, why doesn't it work the way we think it is? It's like it's fabricated. It's only surface. It's not digging into the depths of your unconscious mind, because the only thing that has the ability to dig into the depths of your unconscious mind is alchemy. So if you don't even know the 7 universal laws by heart, you're wasting your time. So keep going to therapy. Keep talking to these people that think they know what they're talking about with the narcissist. Keep doing this shit. It does not equate to alchemy. Alchemy is tools that you can use at any point in your life. It don't matter if you're 12 years old or 56 years old or 100 years old. You have the ability to alchemize your life. That's the system that our ancestors left us. That's why, again, that's why we have these laws. We don't have these laws available to us just for us to look over, but you see, we look over our own art. We look over our own ancestors and favor the bullshit that come from people that don't look like you and that don't have your best interests at heart. They don't look like you, they don't have your best interests at heart, but we take their word. But fuck what our ancestors said. But they had the actual solution because that's why they left us the jewels. They left us 7 jewels that most people can't even name. And it's only 7. It ain't 14, it ain't 27, it ain't 26. It's just 7 laws. And the average person can't even, the average spiritual person, not the average person. The average person that consider themselves spiritual can't even name those 7 laws off the top of their head. So you tell me, what is spirituality really? If we're not even alchemists, because you can't even name the laws. If you can't name the laws, that means it's not inside of you. If you can't name the 7 universal laws by heart, it's not inside of you, so you can't use it. You can't use it if you don't know it. If you got to open up a book and see what the fuck it is, you can't use it. You can't use it to heal yourself if you don't even know what you have. It ain't even that you're healing yourself. You see, that's what they say healing, when it's supposed to be transformed. You don't heal anything, you transform. Because healing something, again, it just, you're still dealing with it. You are transmuting it. You are transforming it. That's why I say energy can only change form. If energy can only change form, that means that's what you're doing. Alchemy is changing the form of energy. Alchemy is transmuting your karma so that it's no longer karmic. It's no longer traumatic because you have transmuted the energy. But how can you transmute the energy if you don't know how to activate it? But what we're going to do, we're going to keep talking about narcissists. We're going to keep talking about healing our inner child. We're going to keep going to therapy. Then ignore what our ancestors taught us. And we wonder why we fucked up. We wonder why we can't achieve what we're supposed to achieve because we're not listening to the people that had our best interests at heart. So then we wonder why we lost. If we're not listening to the people that had our best interests at heart, then yeah, we're going to be lost. We're listening to everybody else, trying to follow after what the fuck everybody else is going through as if that has something to do with us. It don't have shit to do with us. It don't have shit to do with us because our ancestors didn't speak in those terms. They didn't give a fuck about none of that shit. This is how you perform alchemy in your life. This is how you become a king. This is how you become a queen. Utilize your alchemy. Master these 7 universal laws. That's why they're called universal laws. They work at any time, place, event, circumstance. It does not matter. That's what makes it universal. It don't matter if you look like me or look opposite of me. It still works. It's universal. But we don't want to pay attention to that. Why don't most, again, and I'm not even talking about the average person. I'm talking about people who consider themselves spiritual. They don't even know the laws. But they know everything else. So you tell me what the fuck is really going on here? How do we not know the most basic fucking laws? But we know everything else. Everybody's fucking educated. They got all this knowledge. Why don't we know the basic laws? Why is that not emphasized? Transform the trauma. Exactly. We are alchemists. That's what we're supposed to be doing. This is what the ancestors left us. But again, you see, that's the agenda. I'm just making it obvious. I'm just making it known. Most people that consider themselves spiritual do not know these laws by heart. They don't know it. They don't. But they know everything else. They can tell you about everything else, but they can't even tell you the most basic of laws. So you tell me what's really going on here. You tell me what's really going on here. If you don't know the most basic laws by the people that had your best interest at heart, and you would rather take people that don't have your best interest at heart, you're going to take their word over your ancestor, then don't expect to be blessed by the ancestors. Don't expect to live or go walk upon the path of the ancestors. Don't expect to get to the halls of Amenti. Don't expect to enter into the Akashic records. Don't expect to greet your ancestors when you die, when you didn't even acknowledge them. You acknowledged everything else and everybody else, but you didn't acknowledge them. Like, yo, we left you the jewels. We left you the secrets. What the fuck are you doing? That's why I constantly emphasize, learn these things by heart. That's the only way it's going to activate. Fuck a pen, fuck a pad, fuck notes. Committed to memory. That's why I'm like, yo, I'm talking about astrology, numerology, Kabbalah. That's why I like committed to memory. The only thing that makes me different than somebody else is that I have committed these things to memory. That's the only thing that makes me different than someone else that consider themselves spiritual. But you can ask me any of these things and right off the top of the dome. That's why I show this shit every time. You don't see me looking at no fucking notes and you say I've made almost 1,000 fucking videos. Where are the notes at? Where are the notes? You don't see me looking at notes. Okay, I wrote this down. I need to hit this point. I don't. I don't have to take the notes. It's in the fucking memory. It's in the heart space, which is where it's supposed to be. If it's not in your heart space, what are you doing? That's what the ancestors want us to do. Say that's why your heart gets weighed against the feather when you die. They weigh your heart, not your brain. But we're brainiacs. Everybody's so logical. Everybody's so scientific. Your brain gets taken out of your body. Our ancestors took the brain out through the nose. They suck your whole brain out through your fucking nose. Your brain don't mean shit when you're gone. But your heart got washed in the holy waters around the Sphinx. Remember, the Sphinx used to be surrounded by water. They would cleanse a person's heart in the waters around the Sphinx. The guardian of the ancestors, your heart got washed and weighed against the feather. Why do you think that is? The heart consciousness is greater than the brain. But we all want to be brainiacs. We all want to be Einsteins. We want to be Einsteins. What's up, Miss Libra 93? But we wonder why we fucked up. We're trying to use this too much when we need to be using this. It's just that simple. Commit the shit to memory and you will see things change. But we're doing too much of this. We're trying to pick up the pen. We're trying to take notes. We're trying to listen to these bullshit artists. But they're not telling you to commit nothing to memory. That's the difference. All these people that like know the Bible and all that, they don't know that shit by heart. There's not a single person on this earth that know the Bible from start to finish by heart. Because it's not written in a way to be committed to memory. You can commit certain verses. You can commit certain verses to heart, but you don't know that shit from start to finish. But ask Muslims. Ask a Muslim. Do you know the Quran by heart? Some do. Some know the Quran from start to finish. Why? Because it was written like a song. And I'm not saying be a Muslim. I'm not saying go to Islam. I'm just using it as an example of we have one culture that's left-brained, that wants to put all knowledge in your head, and then you have another culture that wants to put the knowledge in your heart. Keep it in your memory so that it walks with you wherever you go. Wherever you go, you take it with you. Wherever you go, you take your culture with you because it's already committed to your heart. That's what they do. So the same thing they do, that's what I'm telling you to do. Commit the laws to your memory. Take it with you wherever you go. If you don't take your culture with you wherever you go, then you are essentially signing up to be a victim because you don't have your culture to defend you when you are out in this world. If your culture is not in your heart to defend you while you out in this world, that means your ancestors can't come to your aid when you need them. How? You don't have the culture inside of you. How the fuck are they gonna help you? How? All right? But you see, as simple as that sounds, we're gonna keep having people that just don't know shit by heart. Like it's just too fucking complex. Like it's too complex to learn 12 zodiac signs and 10 planets. Like that's just too fucking hard for people to commit to their memory. That's just too much. But let them talk about narcissists. They can talk to you for hours about this shit. About how their ex was a fucking narcissist and all the trials and tribulations that they had to go through. Misery loves company. They can talk to you about that all day, all night. But if you say, speak from your heart, what do you know to be true? What did the ancestors leave you? What culture can you access right now? If you don't have an answer, I'm like, then whose fucking fault is it? That's all I got to say about this particular subject, right? If it's not in your heart, don't expect the ancestor to aid you in your mastery of self. How can you master yourself if you're not operating from the heart center, which is the strongest center you have? The strongest center you have is your heart consciousness. So if you're not operating from the heart, which most people are not because they can't forgive, they're still mad. You see how that works? They still fucked up. That's why they can't access this. So I know what it is. People can't commit shit to memory because they're still upset about what somebody else did to them. They're still too caught up in their past. Their heart is black. That's why they can't memorize this shit. Because there's too much weight on their heart. Their heart is too heavy. Their heart is being weighed against a feather, and their heart is too fucking heavy. So of course you can't commit shit to heart because you're still fucking hurt about some shit. You're still hurting. And you feel like you gotta heal when you're supposed to commit these things to memory, and that will stop the hurt. So if you're not committing things to the heart center, how are you supposed to stop the hurt? If you're not alchemizing the heart. But that's just the world. I just explained this whole shit, right? That's why the world is the way it is. It's too much weight on the heart of the people. So that's why when you try to speak knowledge to them, they're like, they can't even comprehend what the fuck you saying. Why? Because they're still thinking about all the bullshit they went through. They're still thinking about their childhood. They're still thinking about their exes. They're still thinking about trauma. So they have no space and no energy to commit these things to memory. They can hear people talk about it. But when it comes to living it out, they can't do it. And again, this question, anybody you consider spiritual, ask them to quote the 7 universal laws. If they can't quote them, then, and that's the most basic of laws that you can ever have. But they can quote all this extracurricular shit. They got all the other data, but they don't have the most basic foundation intact. But then that's why they're all over the place. That's why they're beefing. That's why people can't get along, because they don't have the basic foundation at heart. How do you know? Again, I know this because that's why you don't see me. I've been on YouTube almost 10 fucking years and I've never been in a single beef. Type my name in right now. You're not gonna see a single person making a fucking video about me, trying to expose me, why isn't that out there? But look at all these other teachers. Look at all these other teachers and how many people are trying to expose them in their teachings, and how people are showing that their teachings are flawed. Just go do the evidence. The evidence is already there. So how have I been on YouTube longer than most of these people that just blew up and they're known by the world? How have I been around longer than them, but I've never been in a single beef? You're not going to look at my comment section or my live stream and you see a bunch of trolls. Why don't people come on my page and troll me like everybody else? Go to all your other teachers and look at the live stream when they go live, and look at the live chat and look at all the trolls that talk shit. Then look at my lives. How many times do I have to deal with trolls? It's like it barely happens. I barely get trolled. Nobody wants to make videos about me. Nobody wants to beef with me. So I'm just showing the evidence. So I'm not just running my mouth. The evidence is there. Go look and go do your research. Go see how many people try to battle me, try to beef with me, try to talk shit about me. Go look and find out, and you're not going to find anything. And there's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. How have I been around this long and ain't nobody tried to expose me? Because my teachings are flawed. Why isn't it out there? Why is all these other people, people can't stop exposing them? I see people making content about these people every fucking day. Every day, like all these other teachers, people are talking shit about them every single day. They can't even go live without being trolled. Why? Why? But it's just me talking, right? But just go do your research, go do your evidence, and you see for yourself. Don't take my word for it. Do your due diligence. And then you will see what's real and what's not. It's just that simple. With that, I bear peace. 93, 93, 93.